Welcome, everyone, to our first virtual event in our 2026 Alumni Showcase Series with Dr. Jeff Easley. I'm Mike Leckrone, Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement, and also with us is Megan Starber, Director of Alumni Relations. Dr. Jeff Easley, a biology chemistry major from the class of 1983, participated in the second ever medical practicum trip to Panama, which led to a lifelong career in healthcare. He spent 25 years in family medicine practice, delivered 1,000 babies, and was medical director in Van Wert, Ohio, before teaching for 10 years at the University of St. Francis. Jeff retired from his career in human medicine after he saw his final patient while participating in the 2025 Medical Practicum in Vista Hermosa, Guatemala. Let's hear Jeff's Manchester story. Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mike. Oh, hi, Lori.
Hi, Jeff.
I saw Lori. One of my colleagues from the last trip. Thanks for having me. And as I thought about talking tonight, I think one of the key aspects of my whole story is really the development of relationships and the impact of those relationships on me personally, but also on my career and how I practiced medicine. I grew up in a little town of Winamac, Indiana. It's about 45 minutes west of North Manchester. And I would say, privileged to have as my family doctor, Dr. Ed Hollenberg. And Ed was actually a Manchester College grad and then went on to IU to medical school. And I don't know why he took as much of an interest in me as he did. I think because I was just the geeky kid who loved everything science. And so early on, we grew up on a small farm and raised cattle and things, and I loved taking care of the livestock, and I was really considering veterinary medicine. But Doc Hollenberg would invite me out to his farm. He had a tree farm, and would invite me out to his farm to help him plant trees, which last time I was in Winamac, a lot of those trees have now been harvested because I didn't think about that being 50 some years ago, that I planted all those trees. But we would have some great conversations when we were out there tending to his trees and planting trees. And he really got me interested in medicine and kind of pushed me along the way of just even some of the missionary medicine. He himself was a child of missionary parents who grew up. He actually was born in China. And then he was a conscientious objector. And so he actually served in Appalachia instead of going into the service. And then he would give me books to read about Paul Brand and Ernie Sturry, two just legends in missionary medicine, and really got me interested in that service. So him being a Manchester grad, and I really saw him as my major mentor. I had to go to Manchester for pre-med. I didn't really want to go anywhere else, and I think I only applied to one other school and didn't pay attention to it when I was accepted there. So I got to Manchester, and I think it fit me really well from the standpoint of just the small class size, and the professors were just absolutely amazing. And I can talk about them a little bit here in a moment, but I went through first and second year, learned my lessons. My first year, said, okay, I need to do something else to get to medical school. And so buckled down then, and And during that time, Dr. Miller, Ed Miller, had developed this medical practicum during J term. And I wanted to go the first year he offered it, but I was only a sophomore. And at that time, you had to be a junior or a senior, and you had to be a pre-med major. Well, I was pre-med, pre-med and psych. Um, but I couldn't go that first year because I was sophomore. So I definitely wanted to go that second year that he went, and we ended up going to Panama. And one of the things with when I was growing up, I mean, we expect so much from pre-medical students now, and their experiences and medical uh, uh, experiences, work experiences, that kind of thing before they go to medical school. And none of that was available to me. Growing up in a small town in Indiana, really, we had a small hospital, but they didn't have patient care techs and medical assistants and that kind of thing. And so I really had never been exposed to patient care. So when we went to Panama, I just was completely enthralled, and I'm an outdoor kind of a guy, and we um, we went uh, we went to the Bocas del Toro province, which is along the Caribbean, um, in the northwest part of Panama, and traveled by dugout canoe, and then put on our backpacks full of medications, and uh, hike through jungle paths from village to village, unpacking, setting up a clinic, and then packing back up and hiking back to our home village. And I just fell in love with it. I just absolutely adored it. And I even remember telling Dr. Miller, please just leave me here. Leave me here. I'll write you a letter and you can give it to my parents, and I'll just stay here. And you can tell the registrar and stuff I'll be back, but just cancel my classes for me. He's like, no, Jeff, you have to come home with me. I'm like, please, come on, let me stay. No, no, I had to go back. So I did, and then my senior year, I had another experience that I greatly enjoyed, and that was as part of my psych courses. I did a psych internship at White's Institute, and really got an exposure then to adolescents that really were troubled, that had a tough go in life, and a lot of exposure on dealing with a lot of their mental health. And I really enjoyed that part as well. So I did get into IU School of Medicine when I graduated from Manchester in '83, and enjoyed that a lot. I was able to, after my first year, I was able to receive a scholarship and participate in a medical student experience at IU. It was something new that they had just started, and so they sent medical students to small community hospitals all around the state. And I ended up in Huntington, Indiana for the summer, and rotated with all of the family docs, the OBGYNs, the pediatrician, the surgeons, the ER docs. I had a blast, and they taught me so much. The nurses in the hospital taught me to scrub, so then I could scrub in on surgeries. And I only completed my first year of med school, and already I was scrubbing in on surgeries and assisting appendectomies and colectomies and hip replacements, and it was very, very exciting. And being able to witness a birth and then help out, scrub in on a C-section, even when the OBGYN needed to do a C-section. And it really solidified my desire, first of all, to be a family doc, because I thought I would get bored if I did any of the specialties. because then I would just be doing the same kind of work every single day. And I loved having all of the variety. But the other thing that I really solidified my intent in during that experience was I love the small town. Growing up in a small town and then having this experience in a small town, I just loved having those relationships, and that part was great. But probably the biggest thing that summer was I met my wife. Um, so that made it really, really good. Um, so anyway, I did have a little bit of an incident my second year of med school. I was actually diagnosed with a very rare tumor, and had a 9-hour surgery, and missed about a month of medical school. And so that set me behind a little bit. Um, so I stayed at school all during Christmas break, and got caught up, and I was able to advance with my class to clinical rotations. And so once I got to clinical rotations, I really focused on where I could go, um, to reach out to those that maybe didn't have the opportunities for healthcare. And so I kind of stayed away from, as we call the ivory towers, and sought out rotations in the community hospitals. Wishard was one of my favorite hospitals to do rotations at. They actually had a prison ward inside the hospital, and so I was able to do rotations there, and actually care for care for several prisoners while I was there, and that was basically taking care of a lot of indigent patients. And so all of that then led to wanting to go to the most robust um, inner city kind of experience that I could find in my residency. And I found that at St. Elizabeth Medical Center in Dayton. It's actually closed now. It's just a shame. But it was an inner city hospital, and we had our usual Saturday night gun and knife club, um, sewing excursions and things. And uh, we the residents, there were 36 family practice residents in this hospital, and we basically ran the hospital. We ran all of the codes. We ran the medical ICU, the surgical ICU. And so it was an incredible experience for me. And um, I was honored to be the chief resident there my third year. And then I had medical students with me all the time as a chief resident. And so I really enjoyed that idea of teaching. And so that never left. It was always in the back of my head. Found an opportunity in Van Wert, Ohio, after I completed residency. Van Wert is just about 45 minutes east of Fort Wayne. And I joined another family doc, and obstetrics was a huge part of our practice. And so I was with him for 13 years, and I delivered probably around 1,000 babies. He did as much OB as I did, and between the two of us, we were very, very busy. Um, One of the things I found early on in my career there, though, was that I really didn't have a good safety net for patients that were indigent. And I delivered a, a baby to a young teenage girl at, I think she was about 27 weeks gestational age, and had to do a full-blown resuscitation on this baby, call the helicopter to come pick the baby up. And uh, it was all preventable had she had prenatal care. But she was a teenager, and she had no insurance and had no prenatal care. And so had this idea in my head and went to several of my colleagues that were family docs and went to the hospital, and they agreed to sponsor a prenatal clinic. And so we were able to get a prenatal clinic started. And I don't know how many babies we delivered through the prenatal clinic over the years, but the hospital supplied all the nurses and the social workers and dietitians, and so it was really a fantastic thing that happened for the community, and so I'm very proud of being able to do that and be able to give back in that way. At the time, there was no way I was going to go overseas. My wife and I had our first three children in 4 years. So two of them while I was in residency, and then another one 2 years after I started into practice, and then had our fourth child then within 7 years of marriage. And so um, it was a busy time for us, raising all the kids and busy practice there. Uh, but never got rid of that idea in my head of wanting to go and do mission, a medical mission trip. And as it turned out, we had decided to adopt a child and went through a lot of different roadblocks, and finally decided to adopt a child from Cambodia. And so in 2002, early 2002, I ended up making one trip by myself, and then my wife and I, who has been a pediatric nurse for, I don't know, 38 years. I probably shouldn't say. It tells her age. She's married to me, so she's not. Um, and so we made these trips to Cambodia, and it was amazing to be in that venue again and experience taking care of these orphans and taking care of the nannies that were caring for the orphans, because they were all sick as well, and really got those juices flowing. Um, Shortly after that time, though, my partner and I had some business disagreements, and I ended up leaving his practice. And so I had to start out on my own all over again. And so I was in solo practice for a while, and then the hospital um, asked me to join them, become their medical director. They were starting a multi-specialty group because they couldn't get physicians to come into Van Wert. They had to hire them. Nobody wanted to. That was about the time when really physicians didn't want to be independent anymore, wanted to be employed. And so I went to work for the hospital, and then practiced full time while I was the medical director for this multi-specialty group. And um, during this time, I forgot too, I don't know how I had the energy for all of this. I was also deputy coroner for the county, and so had coroner duties 1 week out of the month, and so that was uh, that was just a little icing on the cake, I guess. But we went along, and my kids were into high school, and they were all in sports and very active and things. And as they started to graduate, uh, started really having this itch to do something different. And um, just so happened that in 2013, Dr. Jeff Osborne, biochemistry professor in Manchester, who leads the medical practicum, gave me a call in August of 2013 and said, Jeff, Ed Miller told me to call you. And he said, I'm leading a medical practicum to Nicaragua, and we could really use a family doc. And would you like to come along? And my wife said, go, go, go. And so So in January of 14, I went on the medical practicum to Nicaragua, and oh my gosh, it was like being back in Panama all over again. And it's like I missed my wife and kids, but boy, I didn't want to leave. There was just so much work to do there, and just uh, I love the people. I think one of the things, um, any place that I've been to do medical work outside the U.S., I just I just am fascinated by their cultures and fascinated by the people, and I love getting to know them and see how they live. And man, it just gives you such an appreciation for every single thing that you have here. Um, in fact, I would always tell students, uh, I went on several trips that I'll get into in a second, but I always told students, now you're going to have reverse culture shock after you go on this trip. And then students are like, what are you talking about? You're going to go home and you're going to see everything that you have and the selfishness that people have and the surplus that people have. And you're going to get really angry because you've been to a place where they have nothing. And yet, how happy are they? They are among the happiest people that I've met, and so I said, don't be surprised. And it was always interesting. Students would text me or email me or something after they got back. And, oh, you were right. You are absolutely right. I can't believe how much we have here and how much we complain about it. And I said, exactly. I said, you go on these trips and you gain far more than what you're ever able to give other people. Um, so, uh, anyway, after that trip to Nicaragua, I just, Jeff Osborne and I had a conversation on the trip, and he really encouraged me to pursue teaching. And so I started doing some adjunct teaching for the PA program at the University of St. Francis in Fort Wayne, um, in 2014. And then in 2015, I retired from practice in Van Wert, my 25th anniversary, and I started the next day teaching full time at the PA program. And so I did that from 2015, and then retired, actually December 31st, 2024. So about 10 years with my adjunct work as well. Um, One of the things that happened once I got to the PA program was I found out that the PA program had a relationship with a ministry in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, called Haiti Outreach Ministries. And they had started going there as clinical year students during their spring break. And so alumni from the program, along with clinical year students, would go down to Haiti. And this started in 2010 after the earthquake in Haiti. And they would go down every year over spring break and they would staff a clinic in City Soleil. And City Soleil is a suburb of Port-au-Prince that's basically the worst slum of all the slums. And so once I started teaching there, then I started leading those trips. And so we made trips every year to Haiti, and I still have friends that I keep in touch with in Haiti. My very first translator, who I'm very excited. I actually flew down in 2018 and stood up with him at his wedding. And then he's got a little girl who's, what, I think, let's see, 5 years old now. And he just told me here at Christmas that his wife's expecting their second child the end of January. So I just love being able to hear from him, and really keep in touch and try to pray for them every day, because it's just such a devastation in Haiti right now. And I haven't been able to go back. We actually had to cancel our trip in 2020 because of COVID. The week before we were supposed to go, that's when everything shut down because of COVID. And so we had to cancel all of our trips. And so um, other than the Haiti trips, I my um, dean of the College of Health Sciences at University of St. Francis asked me to go along with her to the Dominican Republic in 2017. And so I did that, and we did a medical mission up near the Haitian border in the Dominican Republic. What's fascinating there is her daughter was in high school at the time. And so I got to know her. And then in 2023, I went back with Manchester on the medical practicum to Guatemala. And lo and behold, her daughter is now a Manchester alum. And she was on the trip with me in 2023 to Guatemala. And so that was a great reunion, and just to see Chloe again and get to know her better. And it's amazing the changes between being a high school student and being a senior in college. So that was great. And actually wrote a couple of recommendations for her and things for graduate school. And so that was a fun reunion we had. And I really, yeah, just enjoyed the trip to Guatemala then in 2023, and renewed some other friendships as well. I had met Rhonda Witten, another Manchester grad, who was a nurse midwife when I was in Nicaragua. She was on the trip at that time, and so got to see her again in 23. And then Paul Freimiller, who another Manchester grad, who's a PA, retired there in North Manchester, and he was in Nicaragua, and so got to meet him. And then another internist from Cleveland Clinic that somehow got matched up with Manchester and the Medical Practicum, and Bill Fike. And so Bill was in Nicaragua, and so it was great to see him. So it was like the four of us back together again in 23, and we just had a lot of fun, and greatly enjoyed that trip. And then in 24, finally things were coming around, and I actually took um, a group of my students back to Guatemala in over their spring break in 24, and we stayed in Antigua, and then went up into the mountain villages around Antigua, and um, staffed some clinics for a week. And so it was nice. I had some of my alum from the PA program, as well as students. And so that was my last trip with any of my students. And then once I retired, I had decided that, my very first experience as a quote medical professional, while I was still a pre-med student at Manchester, was the medical practicum to Panama. And so I decided this was the way I wanted to end my career. So went back in January 25, and um, last patient I saw was a lady who came in who was carrying, they all carry these baskets on their head, of corn and things. And she had fallen like a month earlier, and fell onto her wrist, and of course had the typical wrist fracture from the fall. But she hadn't sought any medical care. She kept working with this. I mean, just incredible toughness and the pain she was under and things. And so um, she was actually my last patient that I saw and that was the end of my career. But it's been a great career. I absolutely love the trips. Um, my only regret was that I didn't have the opportunity to do more, but I did what I could. And so yeah, that's that's kind of the story. I'm open for questions. I wanted this to kind of be a conversation anyway, so I'm open for comments or questions or sharing your own experiences.
Feel free to put questions in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask. But Mark, I see your hand up, so go ahead and you can unmute and ask.
Mark, you're still muted.
Maybe I can. I can't unmute you. Do you see at the top maybe of your screen, there's some options to unmute?
Oh, thank you, Betty. Thank you for that. I feel that I've tried to do what I can at home while I was teaching here at St. Francis.
There, I got it.
Good.
Jeff, thank you so much for your story. And I want to tell you how important the practicum is. I try to show up every Wednesday at the Goshen City Courthouse, and we have two Manchester graduates who've been in the practicum. You may know them, Bill Waybright and Norm Waggy. And I am, being a lowly accountant, I am so proud of our MD
Hey,
graduates of Manchester.
You accountants kept us from going broke because we didn't know how to handle money.
Well, I'm flattered by that, Jeff. But anyway, I am so proud of the Manchester tradition of the practicum. I know Josh Klein, he's probably 10 years younger than you, Jeff. And maybe Norm Waggy and Bill Waybright participated, but it's such a great program. And I just want to tell you how proud I am of you and others that have done that.
Thank you. Honestly, I was so privileged to be able to do that as a student, and the life changing experience that it was for me, and really just led me to want to have a career of service. And I owe that to Manchester and to Ed Hollenberg and to Ed Miller. I really do. They were all phenomenal mentors for me.
Carolyn Hardman,
Yeah.
you have a question?
I know Ed started the program and he continued to go on it long after Jack, just as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, but he is in Timbercrest Healthcare with stage 4 lung cancer.
Ooh.
I didn't know what his diagnosis was. I think, Lori, you sent me a text message earlier today telling me he was out there. And
Well, he was at
appreciate
Parkview
that.
for a while. He was fine until the 26th of December. And he
Oh,
started
my.
having issues and they started doing this test. And that's when
Wow.
they discovered the lung cancer.
Wow.
And he's the second person from the Manchester faculty area who never smoked, who had
Hmm,
lung cancer. So
hmm.
it's the
I,
cancer that is number one in Indiana and a lot of the country.
yeah, um, my wife is a pediatric oncology nurse, and there's a lot to be said for um, our water and other things that we live with in Indiana. But
Right.
it's actually interesting because it was uh, one of the things that I usually taught topics in the cardiovascular and pulmonary systems uh, when I was teaching in the PA program. And radon is the number 2 cause of lung cancer. And like Allen County, Indiana, is among the highest radon levels in the state. And so we definitely have some increased risks because of that. But that's just devastating to hear. But yeah, I was telling Mike and Megan that I'm probably gonna run over to Manchester tomorrow or Thursday as I get an opportunity to go visit Dr. Miller.
He
So
sleeps a lot. I got all this information from Jim Streeter, who was a
yeah.
chemistry.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's
Oh
at
yeah. I know
Timbercrest, and
Dr.
he's the
Streeter.
one whose wife died of lung cancer. And he said Martha was there, but he wasn't sure that Ed wanted a lot of company. I think you should stop in and say hello, but you know what to do.
Sure. Sure.
But
Oh
it was
yeah.
just he was a really
Yeah.
good friend. We did many trips together, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And Martha, I love telling this story. Um, when I was in organic chemistry, um, it was right before Christmas break, before finals. Dr. Miller invited all of us in organic chemistry, and there were only like I think 13 of us or so that were in organic chemistry at the time. Um, he invited us over to his house Sunday afternoon for a study session. And so we got over there, and they've got a fire in the fireplace. And Martha had made homemade cookies and hot apple cider. And it was just absolutely amazing. Where do you get that? Right? What university do you get that kind of an experience except at a place like Manchester? And so she served us all and things, and then Dr. Miller had us all sit down on the floor in his living room, and he sat there in his chair. And he said, "Okay, now we're going to quiz you." And so he started quizzing us, going around the room, quizzing us about organic chemistry topics for the next hour. And then he says, "I think it's time for you to go. You should be ready for tomorrow." And, and it was I've never
Perfect.
forgotten that. I've just never forgotten that. And yeah, yeah, just an amazing couple. Well, yeah,
Well,
I
go over
understand.
and say hello to him, please. He would.
I will definitely go over and say hello to him. Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I like the Jeff Easley story about your medical school interview.
Oh yes, Lori. Oh yes, yeah, yeah. Oh, well, when I was interviewing at medical schools, I don't remember anything about the medical interview at Indiana University, except that when I came in, sat down, and the professor who was interviewing me introduced himself, and then he just was kind of rifling through my application and things, and he says, "What does your dad do?" And I said, well, my dad's a mechanic. Well, what's your mother do? And I'm like, this is really weird. She's a secretary for our family doc. And he goes, what does the son of a mechanic think that he can contribute to the medical community? Why should we accept him into medical school? I used to have a really hot temper. And I'm much better controlled about it. But I'll leave out the expletives. But I basically said, because I want to be the first doctor who doesn't get screwed over by his mechanic. So yeah, I got in, right? So I don't know. He seemed rather taken aback by that at the time, but and I don't remember any of the rest of the interview because I'm thinking to myself, well, you just blew that one, but I got in. So thanks for bringing that up, Lori. Oh man.
I love that story.
Oh yeah. 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 Well, yeah, I have stories about your father too in class. So, oh yes, Lori's father, Gary Zimmerman, another one of my favorites. He was awesome. Was mad at me because I ended up 3 hours short of being a psych major because I decided I didn't want to take one more class my last semester. I wanted to prep for med school interviews and that kind of thing. So he was so mad at me then, but he was great. I loved his classes. Oh my gosh, got some comment over here. Who's this from? Adriana?
Yeah, current student that's on the call with us.
Yeah, I'm just reading. Oh, she lived in Winnemac. Well, Adriana, I will say this to you. Get your pen now. Okay, write down JEASLEY60@gmail.com. Okay, all small letters. Email me anytime you want, and we can chat. Not a problem. You're in a good place. Don't worry about it.
President Young has her hand raised like a good pupil.
Yes. So sorry, I'm
Oh.
getting my extra mile in for the day, so I'm walking on the treadmill in my suit jacket. Jeff or Dr. Easley, this has been remarkable. I love your story. I could listen to you all night. It's great.
Not if you were in my pharmacology class.
I bet. I'm sad that our students are on the medical practicum right now. But what piece of advice would you give to them? I'll pass it along to them when they return. All of our pre-med students.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I wish, yeah, I would have talked with them before they went on it, because I think the biggest thing is you just don't worry about it. I mean, we had so many students this last time who had never traveled outside the country. And I mean, they were really, really afraid. And I just remember how they blossomed. I mean, they just blossomed during that trip, and just the experiences that they had, and just the growth that they experienced. was absolutely phenomenal in just that short amount of time that you're there. And so I would just say to any student that wants to go do that, just go for it. Just absolutely go for it because you know, figure out how to pay for it. Because it's so worth it, and it exposes you to another part of the world that you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine, and you're immersed in it. I mean, we lived in the village with them. The kids were out of school for the time that we were there, and we slept on their. Hey, we had a concrete floor this time. Panama, we had a dirt floor, and we didn't have all the fancy mats and everything like we do now. We actually took those orange life jackets. So everybody had to wear those orange life jackets because we literally went across 5 hours in 40-foot dugout canoes with outboard motors on them. 5 hours across the Caribbean to our home village where we stayed. So everybody had all these orange, life vests, and so those became our mattresses. We actually put those down and then put our sleeping bags over that, and you get used to fighting off the rats when they want to take your boots and drag them away, and so you keep a flashlight by your side, and when the mice crawl over you or the tarantulas, they're not going to bother you. You just leave them alone. And um, wasn't that your night of giving your talk, Lori, when the tarantula was crawling up the wall?
Yeah, I'm giving this really nice, meaningful talk, and
Yeah,
everybody's looking behind
starting to
me.
scream. Right, right. Yeah, all part of the experience.
Jeff, there was another question in the chat about
Oh.
wondering if you could share maybe another memorable story from your time at Manchester, not related to your pre-med classes.
I think probably the most fun story that I would tell is the fact that in another life I was a musician, and I was actually a jazz musician. And when I came to Manchester as a freshman, I brought my saxophone with me, and I went into the jazz ensemble director's office, and I said, "Hey, I'm a pre-med major. I'm not a music major, but I'd really like to play in the jazz band." And he said, "Well, the jazz band, that's basically for the pre-med majors." And so I said, "Well, pull out a piece of music and I'll sight read it. And if you like it, then I'm in. If not, then I'll pack my saxophone up." So he said, "Oh, okay." So he pulls out sheet music, and boy, I got lucky because it was something I'd played in high school, and a jazz piece that I'd played in high school. So I played right through it, and he goes, "Oh, you're in." And so I was able to play in the jazz ensemble for all 4 years at Manchester, and sometimes I just was part of it, but I had too many credit hours, and so I couldn't get credit for it. But he let me come in, and I would just play anyway, and got to travel with the jazz ensemble, and we traveled to different venues around northern Indiana and up into southern Michigan or to Chicago, go to some alumni events and things, and that was my release. That was my fun. Was being able to being able to play in the jazz ensemble and keep that music part of me going. So we all have those creative sides, right? So
I love that. I love that. What other questions or comments?
Hey, Jeff, has there been any opportunity for you to kind of interact with other Manchester alumni, maybe around St. Francis, your job there, not so much the medical practicum, but in other ways?
yeah. Thanks for reminding me about that. Yeah, I I really it was always exciting to me. Um, Jeff Osborne and I actually were able to come together right after I started working at St. Francis, and we developed an agreement between the two universities that got signed off on and got changed a little bit through the years, but basically we gave Manchester students the same preferential treatment that we gave undergraduate students at University of St. Francis, that if they wanted to apply to our PA program, they automatically got an interview, and we gave them preferential treatment. And so I was privileged to be able to teach several Manchester students over the years. Uh, Katie Byer and Jake Martin are two of my absolute favorites, I have to admit. Although I always told my students I don't have favorites, but those two were. But the the other thing was that you never know about these connections. And I said at the beginning, it's about relationships and things. And you just never know about the connections that you're going to have. And so there have been several students over the years that we have kept in touch through just text messaging or occasional calls or emailing, that kind of thing. And one of those students was Aubrey Mills, and she was on the Nicaragua trip. And Aubrey went on to go to pharmacy school at Manchester then, and she became a pharmacist at Parkview. And then she became the pharmacist for the family medicine program here in Fort Wayne in their clinic. And so Aubrey and I kept in touch over the years. I tried to get her to go to Haiti with me several times. I was always saying, Aubrey, come on, I need another pharmacist. I had a pharmacist who's a dear friend of mine in Van Wert, but he couldn't always go. And I need another pharmacist. And she could never get loose to go along. But in early 24, I had told the university that I was going to retire at the end of the calendar year 24. And so I didn't know it, but they had already posted my position. And so Aubrey sends me an email saying, hey, I just saw that there's a position open up at University of St. Francis in the PA program. You know anything about that? And I go, yeah, I'm retiring. And so she said, well, my husband, who is also a Manchester grad, who is a family doctor, Brandon Bakari, would like to teach. And so Brandon and I met and we had breakfast, and he grew up in Fort Wayne, and I can't remember the school he went to. He did his residency in Richmond, Indiana, which Aubrey is actually from Richmond, Indiana. And so so Brandon and I got to know each other, and I invited him to come and speak on different medical ethics topics. I taught ethics in the PA program as well, and got him to come and speak a couple of things, a couple of times, and then he became involved in the program. And so when I retired, Brandon was actually hired as the medical director. So there's still a Manchester grad that's the medical director of the PA program at St. Francis. So I was thrilled about that. So yeah, those are just little things that you just never know how that's going to turn out. So
We'll take our final question here from the chat. And so Yvonne is just curious about, in these uncertain times in our country and the world, if you, Jeff, perceive that the international experiences inform how you view your role as a citizen in these current times in our country.
yeah, you know, one of the things about all the different experiences that I've had in different countries, most of them in the Caribbean and Central America, but then also in Southeast Asia. One of the things I've noticed about the experiences that I think we need more of, we need less rhetoric and less just screaming and yelling at each other all the time. And we need more of that humanity. We need more people to go elsewhere in the world and have these kinds of experiences, because I found that, you know what, it didn't matter what country I was in, people are the same. People are people, and they all have their dreams, they have their aspirations, they have their downfalls, they have their strengths and their weaknesses. But it's something that the humanity is something that we can all share. And it doesn't matter where you're from. And like I said, I have friends that are in all of these other countries that are just so dear to me. And I pray for them every day, and I think about what their life is like. And going on these experiences, you will see how they're living, and you can understand what what persecution can look like. And so I just feel like that's what we need more of. We really do. And I think that's just another one of those benefits of something like the medical practicum, because you're able to just see someone else and see what their life is like. I mean, to me, a great example of going on these experiences and receiving more than you're ever able to give would be like the first time I was in Guatemala. I would see these families showing up, and they all had this little bandana all wrapped up, and it was, about this big or so. And they kept handing that over to the Fundinar ladies that were doing the intake. And then and I watched them, and they were pouring a little bit of corn out into this big burlap sack. And I'm like, why are they doing that? And so they wanted to give to us because we were giving to them. So every family was coming and giving a little portion of the corn. So they were taking basically the corn that would be the cornmeal that they would make their tortillas with the next morning, and they were giving them to us so that we would have tortillas to have the next morning for breakfast. Now, we would have gladly paid whatever they wanted us to, but no, that's a dignity that they wanted to give something in exchange for what we were doing for them. I just, that's just how I see it. So.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing your story. The comments here and from what people have said out loud too, really just are grateful for you and are proud of you. Clearly so well deserving of your recent Alumni Honor Award that you received this last fall. And all that you have talked about tonight just further proves that you have embodied the Manchester mission and values of service and community and carrying out, the mission of improving the human condition. All of those things, truly, you embody all of those things, and we are, like Mark said, just so proud of you and appreciate you sharing your story tonight. So thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody on the call who joined us for this last hour. I do want to invite you to our event next Tuesday with Dr. Connor Eichenauer. He is a 2019 graduate, and he will be talking about his journey from Manchester into his PhD program, where he received his doctorate in industrial organizational psychology. And so he's going to be talking a little bit about his work with GE Aerospace and how he's a talent assessor there. So we look forward to that. This will be recorded. We'll send everything out tomorrow. If you want to rewatch it or share it with anyone else that you think would benefit from hearing Jeff's story. But just thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.